Hello, everybody. Once again, I am Lehman Crafton Jr., aka Zorvalachan Less Than Guru. And today I have something a little bit different for the character creation challenge. Today is day 23, and it's not that I'm getting to the end of books I own. It's basically because I've done a lot of the same type of things, the same, oh, what do I say, like I think I did 4 different editions of D&D and a couple of Seventh Seas and a couple of Palladium books, etc. Um, both versions of Torg and things like that. So I wanted to make a character today. I also needed something fast today, but I wanted to do an upcoming project that I've been working on kind of the last week, which is a streamlined, updated rules overhaul of my Dunamis game. Basically, if you watched some of my previous videos, I'm talking about a campaign that I'm going to start this coming Sunday, the 14th, actually, on Valentine's Day, as long as everybody can be there. And basically, the group came together and they voted to do Palladium First Edition, and it was a choice that I gave them. I was prepared to run it, but as I'm reading the rules, um, there's just things that I won't say I dislike. There's just things that I would have done differently, and I basically house ruled a lot of things to kind of uh, to change things a little bit about things that I didn't necessarily agree with. There is a lot of things in my mind currently about old school versus new school. Certain things I like about one that I don't like about the other, and vice versa. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying there's parts of both that I kind of like. And one of the things when I've been doing these reviews, and I did my own game, Dunamis, even though I admit it's a very complex game, especially I don't think when you're actually playing a game, things need to be complex, say during combat. Um, Between adventures during downtime, I don't see a problem with looking through rules and trying to figure out what you might want to do and having lots of viable options, not trick options, not options that it looks like there's oh, I could do this or I could do that, and one of them only really being good and the other one hurts your character, but actual viable options. That type of stuff I completely still agree with. So I want to say maybe like 5 years ago, I started thinking about streamlining Dunamis, but I just kind of started and I never did finish. And after doing some of these creation videos, other thoughts about other games have kind of been entering my head. And I want to kind of do a game that when you're in rounds, it will go fast and easy, but also make sense. But then when you're planning your character advancement, everybody has lots of different options to do. So that's kind of my goal. So I have been redoing things. So I figured I would just make a character with this new system that may or may never see the light of day in the public. It might be something that I do with my home group and not go further, or it might be something that I throw on a drive-through RPG because if I play it enough and game mastered enough, and my players, play testers, whatever you want to call my group of friends who have been my players for decades, and so I decided that I would go ahead and maybe give you a extremely rough character creation and kind of talk about the things that I've been thinking about. Right now, I have all the races down that I want. Actually, there's 22 races in this game, and here's kind of a picture of all of them. Everything from a very small sprite to the troll in the back here. So we have Avi, which are avian bird people, Amazons, a Canaan, which is like a wolf type creature, an elf. Elf is kind of the Fey elves. They're the ones who have the innate magic in them. Goblin, felin, cat person, minotaur, crystalline, which can be either made of stone or crystal. The troll, a tiefling. I can't use the word tiefling, and I don't want to, but Teufel is the name for hell in German, so they're Teufelings. They're hell touched. Um, Gelfkin, which is, I've mentioned before, my replacement for halflings and gnomes, because I don't like halflings or gnomes. Humans, kobolds, orcs, Urson, which are kind of bear people. This here is kind of hard to see, is a sylvan. They're plant, tree, normally tree based life form. An elf, this is a V. This one over here is an elf. They're the Fey type. The elf is more of the not not necessarily no innate magic. They're more human-like with their ways. They separated from the elves a long time ago in the history. Saurons, the large lizard people, a shifter here, and they are ones that they can basically shapeshift into any of the forms that aren't like plant-based or have scales, like the Sauron and the Kobold. But basically, they can basically if they have skin and not something else, so they couldn't actually be the crystalline also, but they can shapeshift basically. I don't know if I said dwarf, but dwarf here. And then the fallen, which are angels who decided to become mortal and help out with mortal causes. So those are the races. So in my game, I am keeping the virtues and vices. I do like the idea of positive and negative virtues that kind of go against each other. Um, but I did get rid of two of each. I trimmed down the number. So I have body dexterity, which is also hand-eye coordination, courage, intuition, mental strength, physical might, and spiritual power. And then the vices are greed, impatient, indolence, phobia, rage, and superstition. So basically, there's also certain skill groups, which are fighting, physical, social, nature, knowledge, and craft. Everything is based within those six skill groups. Those six skill groups each have two what I call foci, or the plural for focus. So they each have two foci that kind of determines certain aspects of them. And then a thing that I have is race versus culture when I go through all of my races. Um, Basically, there's a part here that says skill group modifier. The maximums and minimums you can start off with is based off of biology, and that is going to be the race that you choose. The skill group modifiers are more based off of culture. So if you wanted to say be an Amazon who was raised by Canaan, you could pick the Amazon min maxes, or not pick it, but you would have those, but you would have the Canaan skill group modifiers. And I do determine that that's up to the game master if the game master wishes to allow that type of backstory, because whenever you start getting into little pluses and minuses to certain things, min maxing will occur. So I basically have a short breakdown of all the races, and I'll just kind of go through here. So that's all the races. So I've decided that I would be a dwarf. I'm going to make a dwarf character because I wanted to show how a non-human character would be. And the dwarf here, basically their maxes, and I'll go ahead and I'll type that here. I kind of don't have a character sheet yet because this is definitely a work in project process. But I want to, whoops, sorry. So these are the maximum numbers that I can get. And then these are the minimum numbers for the vices. So certain races are kind of different vices get them. Okay. And then I'll just be from a dwarf. So here, if I wanted to, get kind of the, oh, what I say, hair color and weight and that. Life points are kind of the hit points. Actually, I'll write those over here. And those are based off of race. And those never go up. It's not like D&D or other games where every level or every so often you can buy more of them. It's basically that's what you get. I'm kind of doing the old school combat as battle. Your skill and stuff will determine when you gain and go up in skills and up in stats and things like that. That will keep you alive more than just your physical blood and bones and stuff like that. Um, I do want to point out that my dwarves are considered small, and dice for damage are determined by uh, your size. But the dwarves have a special ability because they can be so strong, even though that they're small. All their dice for melee weapons are doubled. So where a normal large creature like the Canaan would have a D8, the dwarves, when they're in melee, are going to have 2d4. So they'll have the same maximum, actually a higher minimum, and usually roll in the middle more of the time, less swingy. They also have an innate ability that as long as they are walking on the ground, they will never be able to forget where they've been. So as long as they're not riding something or on a boat or flying, if they're doing the walking, they won't ever get lost, and that will help them out in the underground type situations and stuff like that. So actually, I'll put a ×2 for melee for that. Um, and then I will put my modifiers here. So they get a +1 modifier for fighting, a +1 modifier for physical, no modifier for um, social, -2 for nature, -1 for knowledge, and +2 for crafting. So then once you'd pick your race, you could go down to your class, and this here is just also this is you have modifiers based off of your culture that you grew up in, but you also have a base. This would be the base value. This is a modifier, but the base value is based off of you as an individual, which you have fighting, or you have a formula. And actually, now that I kind of know my race's maximum, I can go back up to the abilities and virtues here. You start at virtues of 1, and you have 8 points to distribute as you want for virtues. And then for vices, they all start at 5, and you have 8 to lower. And you can't either go above the maxes here or can't go lower than the minimums over here. And these are things that you will be able to buy later with experience points. And that's going to be one of the major ways to increase in power levels. There are no like character levels. So start off with 1s in all of those. I'm just getting them close here. And 5s in all of those. And I believe it was 8 points. Like I said, all of this is a work in progress. So things might change after I go through things, but as it is, this is it. So I want to be a warrior because I've only gotten through character classes for men-at-arms and rogue type characters. I just started divine. I haven't done anything with magic at all. So I'm gonna want. I'll just put little ones next to it for all my points. 1 point. Definitely want that. 2, 3 points. 4 points. 5. And 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got two more points. So let's make those minimum. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's my 8 points there. So add those to my 1 that everything starts off with. So my BD would be 2, 3, 2, which is the max. 2, 3, and 2. So I maxed out 3. Basically, a 1 is what an average person is. So all characters will be kind of above what the average person is. And then the higher that goes, the better they are. So 2s and 3s. So this is the opposite. So I'll put 1s next to this. So I will go ahead and get down my greed. I want to get down my rage also. I know that that's going to affect combat. So I'm going to want to put 3 points in that. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Okay, and that looks like this would be the 5 minus 1. So that would be a 4, 4, 4, 4. 5 minus 3 is 2. So that's at a minimum. And 4. Okay, so yeah, I did most of it into to rage. So now that I have, and I can actually, then there's no more. Those are just what you need, are your minimums or maximums to start, not during the game. So I can have my scores there. Okay, so I don't know, these kind of look high. I might adjust that to be 4 minus. minus 1. Think about that. But I do think that certain things come before. Okay, so here's character classes. But before that, I wanted to do this. So your base value for fighting is your courage minus your rage. Basically, it's a blind rage. It's not necessarily a barbarian berserker rage that makes you do better. It's one that kind of just makes you go crazy and swinging wildly and have nothing, no, basically no good comes of this type of rage. So my CU courage is 3 and my rage is a 2. So that's going to be a 1. And then physical is physical might minus indolence. Physical might is 3 minus indolence, which is 4. So yes, that actually can be a negative number, so -1. Social is indolence, which would be, or sorry, intuition at a 2 minus greed, which is 4. So that's actually going to be -2. Then nature is going to be spiritual power minus phobia. So 2 minus 4 would be -2. Knowledge is MS minus SU. MS is 2. That's also going to be -2. Most of these then will be the 2. Craft is BD of 2 minus IM of 4. So -2 there too. And depending on the character class, if you had a class that was good in crafting, that could bump these up. And again, you can see exactly which ones are associated with the the base value. And then here's mystical resistance. This is what is kind of what either target numbers or say saves or mystical defenses, that type of thing. These are if you're actually a mystical class. If you're not, you take the best of your of the 3 MS, SP, or IN, which I think all of mine are the same. MS, E8, or sorry, MS, SP, and IN. So they're all 2. So if I want to, I can just do an MR here. And the mystic, and then do the highest of SU, PH, and RA. Well, I know I lowered my rage. So it's either going to be the PH or the SU, which are both 4. So I got a 2 minus 4, so that's going to be -2. So it's going to be a little bit easier to affect me starting off with magic. So then I want to be a fighter type. So I have an archer, but I'm not going to do that because my damage is extra for melee, not for range. There's the knight, soldier, warrior, swashbuckler, and then we get into daring stuff, which is my roguish things. So let's do a soldier. So again, they get modifiers based off of your character class. Plus they get a special thing. Each character class gets something that's a little bit special. So I'll move this over a little. We can see the fully see the soldier. So the soldier is going to be a +2. Physical is going to be a +1. Social is going to be a 0. Nature is going to be a +1. Interesting. I got pluses there. I think these were supposed to be negatives. Actually, somehow I erased it, or something happened. I need two plus one, or a plus one, a plus two, negative one, and negative two is normally how they went. And then craft is a 0. So then once I have all of these down, I can find my total. So here would be a 1 plus 1 plus 2 would be a 4. Physical would be a plus 1. Oops, plus 1. Here would be a negative 2 equals negative 2. This would be a negative 5. So not very well known in nature, out in the outdoors, but then again, I'm a dwarf, raised by dwarves, and a soldier. So not really caring about nature type things. So that's actually going to be a negative 5. Negative 3 in knowledge. And the 2 and the negative 2 cancel each other out. So that's going to be a 0. So that is kind of the number, you could say the so-called level or base value with the modifiers of who the character is based off of class, race, and background. Now, having worked as a soldier, you get certain things. So shock points, that's what kind of increases with the hit points. You get 5 shock points for every level of the physical group that you get. So this the soldier basically is kind of archetype or template, whatever you word you want to call it, and they get a level 2 of fighting. So basically, this 4 is the base value total, and then you get 2 more added to that. So your value is going to be a 6. And then if you see this, they have a focus level of 2 and a level of range. So if I go down here, I would write melee 2, and I add that to the 6. So whenever I'm fighting, my skill level is considered an 8. And then soldiers are also trained to do some ranged things. So that's a level 2. So that's also equals 8. And then you'll see I got a level 2 physical. So the base value is what, or sorry, the level 2 here is what gives the shock points, not the base value. So I bought physical up, and all of these characters start off with 50 experience points. If you're getting up the level of a skill group, it's a 5 base cost. So it costs 5 to get it to 1, 10 to get it to 2, 15 to get it to 3, etc. So to buy it from, if you're starting from scratch, to get it to 2 is going to be 15 points. So 5 points plus 10 points is 15 points. The focus, each focus has a base cost of 3. So to get it to level 1 is 3, to get it to level 2 is 6. So to get it from a 0 to a 6 is a 9. The physical here is 2, so that was an additional 15 points. 5 points to get the craft up. So the craft went up for 1. So that's actually a 1 now. And there is nothing done for nature knowledge. So those are going to basically be the default value, the negative 5 and negative 3. I also, though, have a craft focus of personal. And what personal means is it is something that would be armor, weapons, potions, individual small items. The other one, like I said before, each skill group is broke up further into two skills or two foci. Sorry, and the fighting is melee and ranged. The craft is personal and structural. So structurals would be buildings and traps and things that are above a personal level. So even like tailoring and things like that would be under craft. And I'm not going to define a lot. Basically, the things that you can get, like the soldier, I left just with foci as the farthest down. But if you look at the warrior has trademarks, and as these are 5 base costs, these are 3 base costs. Trademarks are 1, and they get a two-handed sword. So if you had a trademark, what you would do is you would write a two-hand sword, and that being a 1 would then mean when you're using a two-handed sword, you would be at a 9. Since I don't have any other trademarks, I would use an 8 for any other weapon. And if I just was doing some type of fighting general without melee and without ranged, then I could possibly do a 6. But everything should break down in those two categories. But the trademark, that's where you get the specialized. So you can get two-handed sword, one-handed sword, probably like blunts, one-handed like blunt weapon, two-handed blunt weapon, certain things like that. Ranged would be your crossbows, your short bows, your long bows, etc. Basically, those are the specific type thing. But those are 1 point, and they can never get higher than what is above them. So a trademark of 1, to get this to a trademark of 2, I would first have to get my focus to 2. And here my fighting's at level 1, or sorry, level 3. So I could get the focus up two more levels. So 6 points to get it level 2, 9 more points to get it to level 3. And then I could not get it higher without getting my fighting to 4. So that's kind of a limiting factor. Your trademark can't be higher than your focus, and your focus can't be higher than your skill group. So at some point you will have to pay those higher costs. But with the soldier, they're just base. So what this would do is whatever that base value here was, this 4, let me actually just put that in parentheses while I'm explaining it. This 4, if somebody's fighting him, they would have 4 dice, D6s, that they would have to roll under their skill. So if he was fighting an equal person, he would have to roll 4d6 under that 8. And that is not very good, but it is possible. But there are things that he would be able to do that I'm coming up with to lower that defensive 4 and basically take dice away. So, and instead of having tons of modifiers like this gives a +2, this gives a +1, this does this, basically there's a dice pool that you're trying to get under your total value. So here it would be fighting of 6 plus my melee of 2, so the 8, and everything would manipulate, either add or subtract from that dice pool. And once you're at that dice pool, then you roll, and if you get under it, you succeed. If you get over it, you fail. And if you're really far under it, you can start adding dice yourself and determine what extra things you want to do. So, like if he was going up against a little, say, not a goblin soldier, but just like a goblin out there, that's probably something that would have a 2 defense. So he's going to be rolling 2 dice under 8, which is still not great, but it has much higher chance of success. Higher than average success. If he can lower that, if he can take that 2 and lower that to a 1, he's automatically going to win. He's automatically going to succeed. That's the point where you don't even need to roll dice. You just realize that you're going to hit that. You are that much better than your opponent. And what he could do, though, is he could give himself an extra die. He knows the 1's going to do it, and he can choose a risk. He can decide, hey, I want to press my luck and roll 2 dice. He's added 1 die to it. Say whatever he did, drop that 2 to a 1. He can re-add a 1, and he could then do, say, extra damage. So when he would roll he could roll his dice and say that he would do like plus 2 more damage or something. That's kind of how I'm going with that. So kind of show you, then you have the trademark here. They have this warrior has 2 different trademarks, but they don't have the craft. So they are stuck mainly with fighting. They have fighting, they have a focus, they have a trademark and another trademark, and then a physical, just to kind of give themselves some shock points. So if you're going negative, you're not going to be able to roll dice against that unless you can really, really get some negative dice to get it to 0. But that's where you have different classes doing things. And in the future, he will be able to put experience points into it. Like as soon as, like nature, if he started learning things about nature, 5 points, he got the nature of 1, so it's a -4, and then he can start either upping nature, or he could get in the 2 different natures. Basically, if I remember correctly, because I kind of moved my notes, but physical, the 2 groups under physical are athletics and brawn. Athletics would be like tightrope walking, balance, those type of things. Brawn being lifting, climbing, those type of things. Social is going to be voice type things, which would be fast talking, convincing, persuasion, and then physical type things, which I call poise, which is your physical manners and how you present yourself non-verbally. So that's kind of what social is. Nature, there is going to be life, which would be plants and animals, and the environment. So anything from seasons to navigating by stars, all of that environment, weather patterns, all that type of stuff would be the 2 natures. Knowledge is going to be basically, you have your book learning, your lore, and your practical knowledge. And then crafting, as I said, you're going to have that personal, which is kind of like objects and items, small things or personal things, up to, say, weapons and armor. But then building bigger things like building wagons, building houses, building big traps and things like that are going to be structure. So that's basically what everything's going to fall behind, or fall under, I guess I should say. But I'll go ahead, and that's kind of as far as I've basically got with the thing. Most, I'm going to say so far, about 80, 90, maybe 90% of the art is going to be all new that I'm doing as I go through this. So this is a long project. This is not going to be something that is just fast. I'm really trying to get something that, at least with my home group, I think I'll like. I think having the just adding and subtracting dice and figuring out that, and then rolling under it instead of figuring out little bonuses to put here and there. Hopefully will make it less easy to forget and easier to do dice, you just cancel out dice, and then whatever you're left with, that's what you roll, and you have a number to roll under. Like I said, everything will probably be adjusted. It might just something that I have adjusted already is these vices. I might change them from a 5 to a 4. That would up all of these by 1, and that might be a better thing. But as I said, it's a very big work in progress, but I do like the way that my thinking is coming along. And here is the first time I presented this publicly to anyone except for my brother. So anybody, even in my home groups, are not aware of this thinking that I have been doing. Um, so yeah, that's basically what I wanted to do. And this was the day 23. I kind of reversed them there. Day 23 of the 31-day character creation challenge. This will be, or possibly maybe, a form of Dunamis that will be out as kind of a completely revamped second edition type system. So thank you very much. If you like the video, go ahead and click that like. If you dislike it, you can click the dislike. You can subscribe and ask for notifications if you want to see future videos as they come out. And I guess that will be it. And until next time, I will catch you later.